Stampede this morning. Panic gripped the entire campus. Some parents collapsed. Roland Akong is on standby and will be telling us more in this edition of the news. Plus, Colonel Kakabama Boom of Cameroon re-elected as president for 4 years of the African Athletic Federation. The news in a moment. Evening and thanks for joining us. This is the primetime newscast on Equinox Television. We begin straight away in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. Over 62 students of Government High School Nkwabang in Yaoundé have been hospitalized after a stampede as they scrambled to make their way into the school campus. 5 parents collapsed. The incident resulted from the closure of the school gate by the principal, but the students revolted against it, forcing their way through. Roland Akong went to the government high school in Nkwabang. His report.
Security officers rushed into the premises of the Nkwabang High School in Yaoundé Tuesday to transport some students trampled upon by their mates during a stampede. This van is transporting the students to some Yaoundé hospitals. Some parents who arrived at the scene were inconsolable. According to administrative sources, no deaths recorded.
Non, il n'y a aucun mort. Nous avons fait le tour des hôpitaux à Yaoundé ensemble.
But close to 100 students were hospitalized over injuries sustained. The incident was a crowd puller, blocking traffic along the Yaoundé-Betwa highway for several minutes. The stampede occurred when students without a medical booklet, blocked at the gate on the instructions of the school principal, rushed in behind a car entering the school compound. Material damage caused by the irate students is enormous, with many school properties and documents destroyed. Investigations have been opened on the incident by the different administrations concerned.
And the principal of that institution signed a release just some few minutes ago, informing parents and students that school resumes tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Fire has burnt to ashes a great part of Marwa Art and Craft Center, including good estimated hundreds of million francs CFA. The cause of the fire is still unknown. Details in the following report.
Notre histoire, notre culture qui est partie là derrière, ça dépasse l'argent.
Mahamad Sherif, head of the Marwa Art and Craft Center, is lamenting over the sudden disappearance of the building, which to him was not only a business center, but a monument pregnant with the culture of the people. Part of the building, 2 shops were brought down by ravaging flames. Mahamad Sherif says the hundreds of millions of francs CFA estimated as cost of the goods that vanished could have been saved if the firefighters came on time. He tells us he rang them to no avail.
Je prends mon téléphone, j'appelle le sapeur-pompier, ça sonne, personne ne vient.
When firefighters arrived, it was too late. They struggled to break into shops, but no one could dare the flames. Alerted, the governor of the Far North region, Mijiawa Bakari, told traders to be cautious with the usage of electricity and connections in houses and shops, especially during these last days of the dry season. Mahamad Sherif, head of the Marwa Art and Craft Center, is lamenting over the sudden disappearance of the building, which to him was not only a business center, but a monument pregnant with the culture of the people. The Art and Craft Center in Marwa lies in ruins. What will they tell the next generation? Meantime, still in the Far North region, the governor of that region, Mijiawa Bakari, has instructed traders to only open their shops at 10 a.m. local time. Mijiawa Bakari says cholera, malaria, typhoid, and other diseases could be avoided if the environment is kept clean. According to the governor, shops shall only be open if their surroundings are kept tidy. Details with Veronica Aji.
As from 6 to 10 a.m., all markets in Marwa shall remain closed. Governor Mijiyawa Bakari reiterated his decision as he visited some markets in the town. Contraband petrol was seized alongside crates of drinks as the vendors failed to respect government orders. Of the 3 subdivisions visited, the governor, however, expressed satisfaction as most vendors respected his order. Operation Keep Marwa Clean was launched weeks ago so that the town could regain its beauty, which had been covered by dirt. To the governor, it would equally help in fighting cholera, malaria, and several other diseases.
Limited classrooms, rising insecurity, intermittent power cuts, and lack of potable water are some of the problems faced by the 16 villages that make up the Moyoka subdivision found in the Fako division of the Southwest region. These problems were tabled before Mayor Keng Michael, the mayor for Moyoka subdivision, during his socio-economic tour. And present during that tour, our reporter, Derek Jato.
This hall serves as a classroom for government nursery school Ekata and a cocoa warehouse. These kids are victims. They inhale toxic chemicals used in treating cocoa on a daily basis. At home elsewhere, electric poles have fallen and children now use electric cables as playing objects. There is no water. These are the present problems of the people of Ekona and Munyenge zones. Since 1963 until 2015, never has a mayor of Moyoka subdivision paid an official visit or tour round to see the villages and people that voted him into office. Mayor Ken Michael is doing that for the first time. The hilarious, euphoric and triumphant reception shown to the mayor of Moyoka was another way to thank him for being conscious from where his power came. With his mission to come here and provide solutions to the problems facing his people. On the list of problems presented to him, Mr. Ken Michael came face to face with one: electricity. Addressing his people under electric poles, long cabled but yet not electrified, the Moyoka mayor said he would use all his strength to dig out the solution. His 3-day tour took him to 18 villages of the Moyoka subdivision, and his message was centered on hope, peace, and patience.
Consumers are complaining of poor mobile telephone services in Cameroon. 2 members of the Confederation of Cameroon of Consumers in the telecommunications sector are presently in front of the office of the Telecommunication Regulatory Body demanding better telephone services. Roland Akong reports from Yaoundé.
Mobile telephone users are not pleased with the poor quality telephone services mobile telephony companies are delivering in Cameroon. Subscribers are complaining of paying exorbitantly for the poor quality services.
Que le coût de communication est tellement élevé.
Poor network.
La perturbation du réseau.
Airtime they pay for but never receive.
Payer le crédit de 1000 francs. Vous consommez même pas les 1000 francs et on vous dit que le crédit est fini, c'est pas normal.
And promotional offers through short messages.
Taper tel code pour participer à tel jeu et moi ça me met mal à l'aise vraiment.
These worries have provoked a strike action by 2 members of the Federation of Telecom Consumers in Cameroon in front of the head office of the Telecom Regulatory Board in Yaoundé.
We asked the Regulatory Board to create in the agents something like organ of consideration, administration, operators of telecommunication and consumer. We have so that to find solution of our different. We need that government design 2 representatives of consumer in the concert administration of ART. Since 2 years, we are waiting.
This reporter knows a country where subscribers marched in front of the head office of a telephony company and dumped their SIM cards as a sign of protest over poor quality of telephone services, and the services were improved upon immediately.
Has the chief of the armed forces abandoned his troops at the war front? And commenting on Paul Biya's absence and a private visit to Europe at the time when Boko Haram phenomenon is hot in the far north region of the country, Joshua Osi, the vice president of the Social Democratic Front Party, says it does not speak well of a leader. To Siri Sambaka of the CDU party, Paul Biya's absence will have no impact on the war. Jacques Kwekinge.
President Paul Biya's private visit to Europe since last Sunday seems not to speak well of the chief of the armed forces, owing to the present state of war against the Islamic sect Boko Haram, which is presently occupying center stage in the affairs of the country. Inasmuch as it is constitutionally right for the head of state to effect such private visits, the vice president of the leading opposition SDF party thinks the period is very inappropriate.
I don't think that this is the right time for the President of the Republic to go on holidays, especially because he is the Supreme Chief of the Forces, and therefore he is supposed to show the example. He's supposed to visit the troops at the front. If he's unable to go right up to the far north, he can at least have visited the wounded soldiers at the military hospital in Yaoundé.
Meanwhile, Sam Baka, vice president of the UDC party, thinks the presence or absence of the head of state should not have any effect on the war against Boko Haram. He further says Cameroon, being a democratic nation, means the president has the free will of deciding on what to do and when.
Il faut savoir que nous sommes en démocratie et que le président de la République a été élu.
A view quite contradictory to the views of the SDF vice president, who says the soldiers and population of the far north region need the moral and especially physical support of Mr. Biya to help boost their morals.
When the population is in such dire straits and when the army is in a war where they don't necessarily have the full support of the population, because the population feels, and rightfully so, that they have been left behind by the rest of Cameroon. It is important for the head of state to come and put in place that communion that is necessary so that intelligence and information can flow between the local population and the army. It is also important for the President of the Republic to be present in order to motivate his troops.
Whatever be the case, the war against Boko Haram, declared by President Paul Biya almost a year ago, seems to be the preoccupation of every Cameroonian. But as somebody said, the time of Cameroonians is not the time of President Biya.
In news out of the country, thousands of mourners today gathered in Moscow, Russia, to pay their last respect to opposition leader Boris Nemtsov, killed last week. It was an emotional atmosphere at the burial ceremony attended by world leaders and diplomats. The DWTV.
Thousands of mourners and dignitaries came to Moscow to pay their last respects to Boris Nemtsov. Among them were supporters from Western nations.
He stood for the rule of law, he stood for freedom of speech, he stood, in a word, for liberty. And the things he stood against were very important as well: aggression, repression, and corruption. And if anyone believes that his voice will be silenced by his murder, then I believe they have made a very serious error.
For many people, Nemtsov represented a hope for change in Russia.
He was a ray of light. With his help, I think Russia would have risen up and become a strong country. It is the dream of all progressive people in Russia. He was an honest, hard-working, charming man.
Nemtsov was gunned down on a bridge in the center of Moscow on Friday night in what appears to have been a contract killing. Many opposition supporters believe the Kremlin was behind the murder. Nemtsov was a staunch critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin.
His death represents that there is no limits for those who want to destroy any other opinion in the country except the opinion of Kremlin. There is no limits whatsoever.
Regardless of who is behind Nemtsov's killing, for many Russians, he has quickly become a symbol of the resistance to oppression and intimidation in their country.
And now we talk sports, athletics. Colonel Ahmad Kalkaba Maboum of Cameroon, president of the National Olympic and Sport Committee, has been re-elected as the president of the African Athletic Federation. He was voted by acclamation in Addis Ababa today after his main challenger stepped down. And this is the fourth mandate of Colonel Kalkaba Maboum as president of the federation. Among other projects, the re-elected president would be to present a concrete calendar of activities for cadet, junior and senior categories, as well as prepare for the African Championship next year in South Africa. That does it for the first segment of this news. Up next, we'll meet our guest right ahead. The second part of this news, like we told you yesterday, this week dedicated to the women in Cameroon. We will be celebrating Women's Day on 8th of March. And today we shall be having a teacher as well as a feminist. It is somebody of the house. She started teaching in 1985 and she is a trainer today. Good evening, Mrs. Ponomata.
Good evening, Hansen. Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to the program.
How did you begin this teaching profession?
Okay, like a young girl when I was growing, I grew up in a teacher's house. And what I saw him do, it was like I loved the job. And I always had in mind to take care of people. So I had two options, either to do nursing, that's medically, or to become a teacher. Then at one point in time, my elder brother, who was a medical doctor, dissuaded me from becoming a nurse. So I had no other option than to switch on to teaching. So it is like I had always loved to be with people, to share information, and I use my teaching like a medium to share information to people.
You've been teaching for 30 years now?
Yeah.
Since 1985?
Yes.
It's been a daunting task?
Honestly, it has not been easy, but I think with the special help of God, I've been able to wrangle through the difficulties, through the stumbling blocks, to be where I am today. And I thank God for that.
So which domain are you specialized into? You are a trainer today?
I started in the primary school. I have worked a lot in the primary school. Then I was uplifted from an ordinary primary school to a practicing primary school, and that is where I became a teacher trainer. Because there gradually I went up to the level of a pedagogic animator, and then finally I found myself where I am. So
a teacher trainer, you don't want to tell us your position now? What are you now?
Well, I train teachers, and we mostly specialize on the pedagogic aspect of it, because a teacher cannot be a good performant if the teacher does not have the pedagogy. Pedagogy simply means the sciences of methods of teaching. So a teacher cannot be a good actor if you do not master pedagogy.
Do you have any regret being a teacher today?
I don't at all. I don't. Because the first and foremost thing is that people think teachers are the lowest people in the society, but I think I, as a teacher, achieved a lot, because there is no door in this country that will not be open to me thanks to the children I imparted knowledge to. Along my journey, I meet them. And I'm so proud to say it, that all along I meet my children, and it is like, she taught me this, she taught me that, and so on and so forth. You know, I don't have any problem, because everywhere I will stumble on one of my kids. And they'll say, no, Madam taught me very well, so I must render her service. So that is my own payment as a teacher, and I don't regret it. I really much love what I'm doing, and I'll do it until I die.
As a female teacher, do you believe the government is, recognizes, female teachers in Cameroon? You as a female teacher, have you come across any problem that came to you because you are a female teacher?
Hansen, when I went to school, especially to the training school, girls as a whole, they have that problem. It is not only teachers who have the problem. So far as you are a girl, you only make it if you are able to exchange yourself for marks. Yeah? This is not the first time I am saying it. We had a heated debate still on this panel as to that effect, because I had a professor who was sitting next to me and no, but I am saying that it is quite an uphill task for the girls, because at one point, it is like something that has been embedded in the minds of the teachers who don't share marks to girls anyhow. And they keep telling us, you use what you get in order to get what you want. But that does not actually give us the kind of professionals we need in the society. Let me use my head, get the certificate, go to the field, and be able to defend the certificate I have in my pocket.
Now tell us how you went.
Okay.
These 30 years.
Okay.
Did you
well, in the training school,
you have to get.
In the training school, let me tell you something. I had a professor, and I never passed in his subject because I refused sitting to his request. So at one point in time,
to his request.
At one point in time, I'm coming. We were in a class of 40, and out of the 40 were 15 women. And it is like he wanted to go to bed with all of us. But I told him he was so ugly for my liking. That was the first thing. Now, I never passed in his subject, to the extent that other teachers on campus, at any time we wrote an exam. It's not like we have tests now here left and right. We had just terminal exams. At every time we wrote terminal exams, these teachers came back to me, asked for my scripts for that subject, and then they took me to the staff room. They sat me there. They asked me to bring plain sheets and a pen so that I will recopy exactly what I had written for this teacher to mark. And surprisingly, every time they did that, they took what I had recopied in front of them and gave it to another professor, and you can imagine what I scored. The highest score I had with this teacher was 9 on 20. The same script were given to another professor, and I scored a 19 on 20. But that was a great challenge to me, because I told him at the end of the day, I must have my certificate, and that certificate I would defend till death takes me away from this earth.
And you did
and
that?
I am defending it, yes, of course.
30 years now.
Of course, I'm doing it. And I'm so proud to say that all the certificates I've had so far, I've used my head. And I keep telling the young girl, you are able to make it with your head, but make sure you know exactly what you are going in for. And you know also the rights that have been kept aside for you.
To go out of this interview, what is the condition of teachers in Cameroon today? If you may want to pass a message to...
The condition of teachers today, honestly, I will tell the teachers, I will tell those who want to come into the profession.
Teachers, because within the context of Women's Day.
First of all, I will tell those who want to come into the profession because you love children, because you love imparting knowledge, not because of the financial aspect of it. Because if you are entering the teaching profession in order to get rich, sorry, you'll never get rich.
Okay.
So I want just to say that we need the teachers. The teaching profession, the working milieu may not be the best, but
for female?
Not only for female, it's for everybody.
Okay.
It's for everybody.
Thanks a lot. The message has gone through.
Thank you, but the time was too short. So
we know we shall try some other time to, allocate time for you to, come and express, yourself as far as your profession is concerned, and why not others who are watching us right now live on Equinox Television. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
We'd like to have you some other time.
It's always my pleasure sharing information.
And thanks for joining us, televiewers, in this other edition of the 6 p.m. Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Good night.